It seems the nightmare apocalypse is upon us because China has just started mass arresting people suspected of having the coronavirus as 86 people die in a single day. Suffice it to say, this is substantially worse than many of us predicted, and we don't know what's going to happen next. But for those of us in the United States, the best thing you can always do is remain calm. Recently, the U.S. government made a statement saying the threat to Americans is still relatively low. But this one's starting to look creepy and scary, and conspiracies are running wild. The worst thing China could be doing, if this is just a regular coronavirus and there's nothing to worry about, the worst thing they could do is start barricading people in their homes. Oops, they're doing that. Fumigating entire cities using giant drones. Oops, they're doing that too. Mass arresting people and putting them in camps. Yeah, I'm beginning to think we got a serious problem here. I don't know what to do. I don't know what your answers are. The only thing I can say, the only advice I can give, have you gone out and bought some, 5-gallon water jugs yet or something? Listen, I say it every time, but before we get into it, it has to be said again because we're dealing with real issues of your safety and your family's safety. Don't let anyone shame you into not buying some emergency supplies. You probably hear me say it a lot if you watch all of my videos on these subjects, but I'm saying it again for anyone who missed it because this is serious, okay? So forgive me if you're tired of hearing it, but seriously, get a first aid kit. Get some canned food that can last you a while and some water because hurricanes happen, because storms happen, because the power goes out, because floods happen. But this is freaky to a degree I've not seen. I mean, can any of you recall anything this bad? The Daily Mail reports 86 people die of coronavirus in a day in China as Beijing begins mass arrest of sufferers. And videos show hazmat suit clad goons dragging people from their homes as death toll hits 724. China's lying. What are they not telling us about this? They didn't react this way to SARS. And many people at first were saying, one of the arguments I heard was, it's better to overreact than underreact. Okay. The argument then was that because they didn't overreact to SARS, SARS was worse than it should have been. Are they overreacting now and it's about to surpass SARS's death total? It's infecting more people, traveling as fast as the flu with a substantially higher mortality rate. If this is overreacting, I certainly hope it is because they're literally mass arresting people and barricading them in their homes and rounding them up for camps and building emergency hospitals. It's starting to get scary. The Daily Mail reports disturbing video showing people suspected of having coronavirus being forcefully dragged from their homes has emerged as the communist regime starts rounding up sufferers in Wuhan and taking them to camps. At what point are we like, well, the end is here? Okay, I'm being somewhat facetious, but seriously, I think setting up camps for people who have a disease is getting movie, this is how zombie movies begin, man. Officials in protective suits are seen holding onto 2 people by their arms before a third, more resistive man is picked up from the floor and carried away in one shocking clip shared online. The footage filmed in Wuhan comes after China's Vice Premier Sun Chunlan called on a people's war against the fast-spreading epidemic. As of Saturday, more than 700 people have been killed by the virus, with 86 people dying on Friday alone, and more than 34,500 globally have been infected. Long incubation period, airborne virus. We got a serious problem. In the video, one person wearing a face mask is seen being quickly pulled along by officials and is soon followed by a woman in a winter jacket who is held underneath by the arms by someone in a protective suit. However, the officials have more trouble in removing a third person who was laying in a doorway, refusing to be picked up. Two people tried to lift him, but after having no luck, they are joined by a man in a blue apron and then 2 other officials. Despite the manpower, the group still struggle to lift the man, who kicks out at them and struggles from the floor. Eventually, 3 of the men manage to pick him up and carry the suspected patient down the stairs. I'm sorry, man. I'm not trying to be callous. Literally a scene from a zombie movie. I'm not suggesting zombies are happening. I'm saying like this, it's so severe that these are things these are scenes from a movie we make to scare you. That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about severity. You watch these movies, you see scenes like this. It's designed to freak you out. Now it's happening in the real world. Not the zombie part. I'm talking about the severity of the fighting, the quarantines. In another video, said to have been filmed in China, a woman is seen being detained by several police officers and struggling against them. The clip was shared on Twitter, claiming to show the woman being arrested and put in isolation for not wearing a mask against coronavirus. Here's the crazy thing. They don't know who has or doesn't have it for the most part. They can test people who are actually sick or have fevers. Some of these people are asymptomatic, but they're not taking chances. The one family that got quarantined in that video where they're putting metal barricades against their door, those people were just in the city and they were taking this action. I hope it's an overreaction, but as the death toll climbs and is expected to pass SARS and the infection rate is climbing, I think it's very serious. Now, is it the end of the world? No, we'll calm down. Look, it's substantially worse than the flu. It's mostly infected people in China. There's several cases outside of China. Take it seriously, but for now, I don't think there's a whole lot to worry about. Although I will add, a cruise ship docked in Bayonne, New Jersey. I used to live there a year or so ago, and they were holding people in quarantine. Naturally, people are starting to freak out. I think one of the big challenges is that we know very little about this virus or its origins. The White House is reaching out, so let me just show you the story real quick. From ABC, White House asks scientists to investigate origins of coronavirus. They don't say too much, but they're concerned about conspiracy theories online. And if you follow a lot of these more conspiratorial sites, you're going to hear a whole bunch of crazy stuff. These things are not entirely out of the question. There is a biolab in Wuhan, and there was a concern from the international community that a pathogen could escape. But because we don't have evidence, the best thing we can do for now is honestly prepare, take care of yourselves and wait. Do what you can do. The White House is seeking, to investigate the origins. Some people are claiming it was man-made. We have there was one research paper that was put out saying that certain proteins on the virus have never occurred in nature or are extremely unlikely to have occurred in nature. Doesn't mean anything definitive yet. And even the scientists are saying as such. They're saying it just seems odd. Now, a lot of people are speculating. Let the investigators do their thing, but I'll warn you on this one. To avoid panic, the government is likely going to compartmentalize information. This doesn't mean conspiracy theories are legitimate. It just means we will likely not know the full scale of what's happening because panic is bad and can actually hurt the search for a vaccine or a cure for whatever it is and however bad it gets. For the time being, we are looking at something that is expected to be worse than SARS. Could it be a media system that's trying to scare you and freak you out? Yes. And keep that in mind. I don't know the appropriate level of panic or freak out. I have no idea. So the best thing you can do is never enter panic mode because you don't plan properly when you do. I gotta say though, I really do. Look, I'm just some dude on the internet talking about his feelings, right? I'm not an expert on half this stuff. But China is trying to, they've arrested whistleblowers, the people who have been calling out the virus. They've arrested these people. And now we have videos of people being dragged from their homes and brought to camps. This seems like it's substantially more serious than they would like to let on. On Friday, it was revealed that China's central government ordered Wuhan to round up all suspected patients as well as their close contacts in mass quarantine camps. Vice Premier Sun also demanded communist officials of all levels take active lead in this wartime condition or face being nailed onto the pillar of historical shame forever. The city of Wuhan has around 14 million residents, but it remains unknown how many people will be quarantined or where they would be kept. Wuhan officials are now carrying out door-to-door health checks to identify potential carriers who would need to be isolated. I can only imagine a lot of people are now going to barricade their doors and hide because they might just suspect you. Imagine this. You wake up one day and you're drinking a bottle of water. You ever accidentally inhale a little bit of water and then you hear you coughing and they say, doesn't matter, into the van. Miss Sun demanded 4 types of people in Wuhan be put in mandatory isolation in quarantine stations. Confirmed cases, suspected cases, people who have close contact with the former 2, and those who have fever. Heaven forbid you got food poisoning or you have a cold right now because you're getting locked up. Look at these photos. They mentioned the same thing. We can see this photo. Makeshift hospitals. Look at the doctors and what they're wearing. They're taking this extremely seriously. The death toll rose by 86 in one day to 722 on Saturdays, according to authorities, and is poised to pass the 774 deaths recorded globally during the SARS pandemic, another coronavirus that jumped from animals to humans in China. This new number brings the total number of people who have died from coronavirus to 724 worldwide, with 1 death in Hong Kong and 1 in the Philippines. Keeping in mind, the overwhelming majority of infections are in China right now. On Saturday, it was also confirmed the first American who had been living in Wuhan has died from the virus, with a 60-year-old passing away Thursday. 4 Britons, a couple and their 2 children, have also been admitted to San Espases Hospital in the Palma, Majorca this weekend after having tests for the virus. The admissions occurred after the unnamed dad who lives in Majorca, I don't know, it's probably Majorca, went to the hospital on Thursday to inform medics he had been in contact with a person who had tested positive for the virus in France. So again, these people have been admitted and they're having tests. We have more photos. Look at this. This is nuts. China is freaking out about this. They are spraying crazy disinfectants. What are they spraying? And I wonder what they think it will do and why it would stop the virus. We have this photo here. Briton Alan Steele was taken off the Diamond Princess cruise liner and sent to hospital after testing positive for the virus. A team of health workers in hazmat suits on the shore of Yokohama on Friday, where Japanese authorities said the tally of coronavirus patients on board the Diamond Princess cruise ship had risen to 61. Man, could you imagine being on a cruise ship and hearing that one person was sick? Lock your door, don't come out. The crazy thing is a lot of cruise ships are interior cabins with no windows, basically little prison cells. That's got to be a nightmare. France's health minister also confirmed on Saturday 5 cases of coronavirus, adding that all of the new people affected are British nationals and include a child. Health Minister Agnes Buzyn said that 5 were diagnosed with the coronavirus after coming into contact with a person who had been in Singapore. She said they were not in serious condition. The total number of people infected with the virus in France has now reached 11. Buzyn said the group of newly infected people with the virus formed a cluster, a grouping around one original case. That original case was brought to our attention last night. It is a British national who had returned from Singapore, where he had stayed between January 20th and 23rd. And he arrived in France on January 24th for 4 days, Buzyn said, adding the latest outbreak had occurred in the mountainous region of Savo, I can't pronounce that, I'm sorry, in eastern France. According to Le Figaro, the infected British man stayed in a skiing chalet, which contained 2 apartments in the Contamines Montjoie, forgive me for not being able to speak these languages, in Haute-Savoie between the 24th and 28th of January. The first apartment housed 3 people who were diagnosed positive with the coronavirus. 4 others were deemed to be suffering from minor symptoms. In the second apartment, a father and a child were infected, and their mother, who was in Britain, was hospitalized there. As well as the new cases and suspected patients appearing in Europe, dozens of people have also been struck down who were on the Diamond Princess cruise ship. I gotta say, man, we had that meme go around. I know I mentioned it, but that meme saying 2020 was going to be a pandemic because it happens every 100 years or whatever. And here we are, nearing pandemic proportions. Experts recently said in a report from Fox News, they fully expect this to go pandemic. Look, in the United States, we have 12 cases, but this spreads as fast as the flu. I think every day I see this story, the amount of infected is climbing, and it's climbing fast. Now, almost all of these people are in China. Keep that in mind. And almost all of the deaths, except for Hong Kong and the Philippines, are in China. But now we're seeing, I mean, this is it's hitting everywhere. I guess if you're a fan of Plague Inc., Greenland awaits. Better hurry up before they close the seaport. It's a joke, by the way. Newlywed Alan Steele was on board a cruise liner. We read about him. He was transferred. The newly diagnosed also include 21 Japanese nationals, as well as 8 Americans, 5 Canadians, 5 Australians, and an Argentine. This is from a cruise ship. Meanwhile, another vessel with 40 people from China that was turned away from Japan has arrived in Taiwan, with health officials boarding to test the holidaymakers for coronavirus. Check this out. This is Wuhan. For those that are listening, I'll describe it. It's an empty street. There's only a handful, 4 cars, 2 people on motorcycles. The quarantine has people hiding, and well, a lot of people being rounded up. This one person wearing a mask, riding a bike. We can see this. It says a Chinese man is seen wearing a protective mask as he monitors the entrance to a residential neighborhood next to a sign saying strong prevention, don't panic, believe in science, don't spread rumors. Don't spread rumors, they say. And that's why they've been rounding people up. I don't know, man. There's a lot of conspiracy theories going around, and I don't want to get into too much detail, but suffice it to say, there's some weird stuff happening. People are very scared this is going to get substantially worse. I don't know much about virology. I'm not an expert. I'm not a scientist. For the most part, I'll tell you this. If this is traveling as fast as the flu, and we do have a flu vaccine, not everyone gets vaccinated for the flu, but the flu still travels far and wide and kills a lot of people. The mortality rate for this virus is substantially higher, around 20 times higher, according to the reports I've seen from various outlets. If that's the case, I don't see why it wouldn't travel as fast as the flu and injure, maim, or kill substantially more people. Keep it in mind. They say tomorrow more than 150 Britons are being flown back from the coronavirus hit city of Wuhan and will be kept in quarantine for 14 days in Milton Keynes. South Central Ambulance Service said that Kents Hill Park, a conference center and hotel, will be used to house the returning citizens after they land at RAF Breeze Norton, where they will remain in isolation for 2 weeks. Everyone boarding the plane at the Chinese city, which is the epicenter of the outbreak, will be assessed and will continue to be monitored after landing in the UK on Sunday morning. How do you stop the spread? Even if you quarantine these people, what do you do? Do you then have to disinfect everything? How? It seems crazy to me that we could take people who are potentially infected, bring them back to different countries, quarantine them, but still stop wherever they were riding in, whatever, helicopter, airplane, car, bus, whatever. What do? Do you burn them all? Do you burn all the clothes? Then spray people down and have them go through a quarantine, like a stage 4 quarantine, decontamination? Perhaps. I mean, I can only assume they know better than I do. That's for sure. But it really seems like when you're taking people out of a quarantine zone and bringing them home, the chance for, a leak, some kind of break in your security protocol is extremely high. Far be it from me to tell them what to do. They say, they're going to say a bunch of the same stuff. I get it. They say dire coronavirus warnings from Britain's top experts. I'll just read some of these and then we'll wrap this one up. Leading virologists and infectious disease specialists met at a hastily organized meeting by the respected Science Media Center in London on Friday amid the escalating outbreak. They made a series of dire warnings. A vaccine will not be ready until at least 2021. Even if we eradicate the virus in the next few months, it could reemerge in winter. An outbreak in late 2020 could be devastating for NHS staff juggling winter crisis. So that's in Britain. The death of a seemingly healthy Chinese doctor in his 30s raises fears it may have the ability to kill people with strong immune systems. That's terrifying. Don't be fooled by a decrease in confirmed cases in the last few days. This could be a lack of manpower and errors in cataloging them in China, and it's a two-week incubation with an airborne virus, meaning a lot of people could be becoming infected right now and just not know. The virus may be spread to babies from pregnant mothers. Cases are at least 10 times higher than the current 31,000 cases being reported. I'm going to stop you right there. The Daily Mail is reporting cases are at least 10 times higher than the current 31,000. Are they saying 310,000 people might be infected? How can you quarantine this? Now in China, I get it. It's probably why they're mass arresting and rounding people up in camps. But what about everywhere else? If the cases are expected to be 10 times worse, what about the United States? Are they saying 120 people have it and we don't know who those people are? You know what, man? I can't stand this. The last thing I want to do is play into some stupid media hype or fears. But all I can really say is, as much as I'm very critical of the media for trying to do that clickbait nonsense, we are literally looking at videos of people being dragged from their homes and they're reporting that they're bringing these people to camps. We have seen videos of people putting metal bars in front of homes. I think the media definitely wants to fearmonger, but I think it's fair to say that from the videos we've seen in China, it is worse than we thought, and it's getting worse. So I'll leave it there. Any updates, they will be on this channel. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. youtube.com/Timcast. It's a different channel, and I will see you all there.